What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 16 of my reviewing and ranking King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard studio albums. I'm doing them in order, one a week. We're on number 16, KG, Explorations into Microtonal Tuning, Volume 2. The cover is awesome. If you look closely at the cover right there in the corner, you can see that it says 2, because this is Volume 2. The first one being Flying Microtonal Banana, which was Explorations into Microtuning Volume 1. The next album is Volume 3. So yeah, we're returning to those sort of otherworldly sort of sounds that Flying Microtonal Banana had, in which it's King Gizzard, proggy, psychy, rock, driven by drums with these squiggly guitars, but it just sounds otherworldly. Not necessarily Middle Eastern, not necessarily like Asian or Eastern, or it has this sound that, of course, we're not familiar with, because here in the West, we don't do a lot of microtonal albums. And so these are weird sounds that our ears might take a while to like get used to. I love this album. I will compare it to Flying Microtonal Banana later on, show you where this album falls among the other 15. But I think this one is better than the first one. I think there's and I like the first one, but there is a weird sort of cohesion, purposeful flow to this album. It seems like there's like two very specific halves to this album, and then kind of bookends, and it's a really awesome journey. And though the songs don't all necessarily segue right into one another, we're like a Zappa song where like there's literally no break, a lot of these songs will kind of like slightly fade out a little, and then we drop right into the next one on the first half of the album. Then the second half of the album, there's a little more continuity between the songs, though the division between the songs is obvious. They're still kind of feeding each other, and there's momentum, and they're kind of going into each other. And so it makes for a really neat listen. It's a 40-minute album, perfect length, 10 songs. A little bit of, even though it's all microtonal and it very much sounds like it all kind of belongs on the same album, there's a couple songs that kind of stand out as like different enough to like provide a lot of like a different musical landscape. But yeah, it's a great album. Opens up with KGLW, sort of a 1.5-minute instrumental that kind of comes in all softly. It has this very mysterious, slightly Middle Eastern vibe to it. It sounds like you're in the desert. Sounds like it's like an instrumental of like for a movie, and you see maybe like, you know, somebody traveling across the desert in the middle of the night or in the early morning, or there's a mysterious quality about this opening. And then it goes into the first song, which is called Automation. And the first two songs in particular, even the third song, are very much driven by the drums. The drums are very active. A lot is going on percussion-wise. And the drums are pretty much providing like this framework for the songs. And the drums will set up sort of like the idea for the song, or like the rhythm for the song. And then the guitars come in with these really squiggly, convoluted, just kind of like circular type guitar lines that sort of set up some kind of weird funky rhythm that sounds mysterious and sounds otherworldly, but at the same time sounds like King Gizzard, psych. But it's the first 3 songs very much seem of the same album. Automation, this really nice, just like otherworldly psych weirdness. And even like in these early songs, when the drums are very much doing the driving and these like weird microtonal like riffs are over there, in the background you can hear those like scraping of the guitar strings that define a lot of their early albums, that like feedback sound where they like seems like they hit the guitar and you get that like feedback bounce. You get those just random like screams in the background, but they're like buried in the mix. And there is so much going on instrumentation wise. These are like incredibly well layered songs. And so that psych energy is there, but it's not in the forefront. It's kind of buried. And so it provides, I don't know, a very rich listening experience. This is an awesome headphones album. But automation, driven by guitars, a lot of like neat, driven by drums, nice squiggly lines. The second song, Minimum Brain Size, is kind of that same vibe. Drums come in, set up an idea, guitars come in all squiggly and around. There's just like layers of awesome ideas just kind of weaving in and out of each other. Vocals right there above it. Minimum Brain Size has this sort of pulling, repetitive, circular type vibe that reminds me of Fleetwood Mac's World's Turning. I think that's the name of the song off Tusk. Reminds me of that song, only this is weirder and psychier and not as, I guess that was one of the darker songs on that album, I guess, is World Turning. That is on Tusk, right? But it reminds me of that song, just the way the guitars are laid out. World Turning, is that on that? No, maybe it's not on that album. What album is World Turning on? Is that on their debut album? But whatever song World Turning is on of Fleetwood Mac, I know it's not on Rumors. Is it on their Fleetwood Mac album? But it reminds me of that song as I try to find out what album that was on. Oh yeah, it is on their Fleetwood Mac album, the first one with Nixon and what's his name? Buckingham. Yeah, it reminds me of that song. In a good way, because I like that song and I love this song. And then Straws in the Wind brings an acoustic guitar energy. That's like the third song in this like sort of trio of songs. It brings some like acoustic guitar energy, but still the drums are very much providing like the momentum for the song and sort of the framework for the song. And then that energy from Straws in the Wind, that goes into Some of Us. And Some of Us is the first real King Gizzard psyche type song on this album. We're still microtuning, but it has that, sing along with the guitar line, lyrics and guitar kind of mimicking each other type drive that a lot of their like early psych songs have. Some really nice, cool guitar licks in there. There are kind of weird pockets of kind of psych indulgence in the middle of this song. It's a lot more playful than the stuff that came before this. And then we get these nice playful moments at the end, in the middle, and then right at the end, we go into this like almost Santana-esque sort of jam where we're flirting with sort of like an early Santana energy. We're going to go off on like an extended solo. We don't get like an extended jam session, but we get somewhat of a Santana vibe at the end of Some of Us. And Some of Us, in listening to this album, very much feels like a turning point in the music of the album. You get the intro in KGLW. You get these three songs, which are very much a different sounding King Gizzard, just because of the microtuning, but also because of the way the songs are formatted with the crazy busy drums and the guitar lines. And we kind of soften that, and then Straws in the Wind. Then we go into Some of Us, and we're kind of all over the place with our energy, but very King Gizzard all over the place. But then after that, Some of Us takes us right into Ontology, which is this techno dance, psych, just crazy, awesome, upbeat. You kind of want to dance energy. It's just almost like before we even get to the lyrics on this song, it seems like it's just going to be like an instrumental jam. Kind of reminds me of, it's the last song on a Teenage Fan Club album. I think it's Is This Music, I think is what it's called. Is This Music? But kind of reminds me of that. They have a couple other songs that remind me of that. I don't think it's Is This Music. Is This Music is one where they're making all the weird noise, right? But it's like a closing song on a Teenage Fan Club album, which I can't remember. I think it's the closing song on the Bandwagon-esque. But it has that energy to it. But then they drop the lyrics, and you realize, oh no, there's more to the song than I thought. But the lyrics are really cool. The beat completely drops out in the middle of it, and you think maybe the song's over, but there's still like a minute and a half left. And then the guitar comes in, like, for the first time kind of dominating in this song, because the rest of it has this like techno dance energy that is amazing. And then the guitar comes in with this really weird, heavily affected guitar solo riff type thing that kind of jams out the sort of last minute plus of the song. Then that goes in to this song called Intrasport, which has this awesome, full, bouncy keyboard sound that goes right into another totally like awesome, like pop dance groove. It almost sounds like a Tame Impala song, like mid-period Tame Impala, right around the one that came after Lonerism. Not Lonerism, but the one that came after that, when they kind of indulged their little like dance pop Euro vibe that they were bringing. This kind of reminds me of like a Tame Impala remix, but it's that King Gizzard energy, which after Tame Impala's first album, Tame Impala lost a lot of that psych craziness. This is King Gizzard kind of interpolating like a Tame Impala, like pop, big pop, cheesy dance number. Fantastic, absolutely amazing. And then Intrasport goes into Odd Life, which is lyrically a kind of reflecting on being a rock star. I think the first line is like, this rock and roll is killing my ears or something like that. But it's just about life on the road, and it's about the odd life that they live. But this eventually goes back to like, there's a dance energy through this, but it definitely has more of a tighter King Gizzard psych energy to it, but you still have that dance energy that's kind of there for the entire time. Drums are fantastic, just layers of amazing sound, nice little jammy solo in the middle, then the end they kind of jam out again. And again, the sequencing of this album I think is perfect. You got the intro, KGLW. You got two songs which kind of sound similar in Automation and Minimum Brain Size. Then you kind of are going away from that a little with the acoustic Straws in the Wind into Some of Us, which is kind of all over the place, but is very King Gizzard-y, a little more psych King Gizzard than the other stuff. Then we get two awesomely paired dance numbers, which feel like they could be played in the club. Really good keyboard energy. And then those two go into Odd Life, which also has that energy, but is also bringing some of that like King Gizzard, more psych energy that Some of Us has. So we're kind of bringing that in. And then the song after Odd Life is Honey, which we're going back to like the acoustic energy of Straws in the Wind. And so we're bringing that balance in there, a little harmonica coming in here. We still got the momentum. There's still like we're being moved forward. We're not like putting on the brakes and taking a little, sitting on the back porch for a minute. The Honey still has momentum in it, but it's definitely the calmest thing on this album. Almost like, I would say it definitely is the calm before the storm. Because then you get the last song on here, which is The Hungry Wolf of Fate, which is just doom. We get some stoner rock in here. We just get some, we even get this part in the middle where it's like, dun-dun, 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 just some straight off like big, huge stadium rockin' type awesome energy in it. This is by far the heaviest thing on this album. Seems to come out of nowhere, but because it comes at the end and the album's been so perfectly sequenced, you're like, something new is going to drop. Like every 2 or 3 songs, the scenery changes, and it just ends with just a blistering sort of doom-soaked stoner rock, little metallic, heaviest thing on this album. Great title, The Hungry Wolf of Fate. But that dun dun in the middle is just absolutely amazing. So catchy, so just beautiful. But yeah, kind of comes out of nowhere. But then when you listen to the whole thing in its like entirety, it's like all the energy of the album finally is just released into The Hungry Wolf of Fate. This is a good album, man. Just a great listen. It's one of those that I think has a couple great songs on it, but together as a whole, I think The Forest really is much greater than The Trees. And just absolutely love this thing. Where would I rank this if I had to rank it among all the others? I have it at number 6, right behind Murder of the Universe, right above the one I just did, Infest the Rat's Nest, which is that thrash heavy thing. I think it is slightly better than Flying Microtonal Banana. I think the cohesion of the album makes it a more satisfying listening experience. And to end on something so ridiculously epic as The Hungry Wolf of Fate, yeah, makes you leave this album with some really, really, really good feelings. So yeah, man, 16 albums in, none of these are bad, and they're still dropping like just top 10 monsters, man, this far into it. Yeah, Fantastic, fantastic album. Absolutely love this. Highly recommend it. Yeah, and if you like this, you're gonna love so much other stuff that they have. This only opens the door to many, many other wonderful, wonderful listens. But yeah, my number 6, great album. Their 16th, KG, which stands for King Gizzard, by the way. So anyways, that's all I got. Subscribe, like, share, listen, do all those things. Comment, make a comment if you want, if you don't want. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Go listen to some King Gizzard. Peace. Talk to you later.